This is the Bear Country Outdoors Barely a Podcast. I'm your host, Doug Joyce, and with me is James Forsland and Chris Cantrell.
All right, here we are. We got a new set for y'all today. We are in the gun shop, as you can see here. We got quite the display. Tonight we're going to be talking about some hunting etiquette, and a lot of people that are new out there probably didn't get the chance to, learn from some of the great mentors that are out there. A lot of us learn from our parents and family and this and that, and there's a lot of things that people don't know that you have to basically learn.
Or to even think about,
Yeah, you'll never know unless you actually are part of it.
Yep.
So we're going to start off with that, and then we're going to move on to a little bit more of the current events and talk a little bit more about the gun ban that's coming up, and Chris is going to fill us in a little bit more.
Things are going to get heated.
Hold tight for some fireworks, folks.
Fireworks, he says. Get ready. But should we announce the winner of the last week's podcast?
Let me get this thing here.
James is doing it all legit, guys.
All these numbers fell out. It was upside down.
I did that. That's my bad.
Okay.
That's my bad.
Okay.
And by the way, if you're listening right now, thanks. We're just a couple of regular old
Mix
day
these
job
up.
yahoos trying to put out some solid stuff for you people.
We're just trying to put out some good content to make y'all laugh.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Okay, so we're just doing one then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Real secret stuff.
All right.
That was official business. We had to discuss.
So that's one of the hats we're giving away tonight, actually.
Yeah.
Good talk, Josh. You are the winner, chicken dinner. Come on down. So he won the prize pack, which was, what was it, a Tamarack hat?
It was a hat, coffee, and a hoodie.
So you get a hat, a bag of coffee, and a Bear Country hoodie. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And I didn't know you were winning. These guys don't know this, but Josh is a guy I grew up with and went to high school with.
Is he really?
Yeah, super solid guy. And he was actually the very first podcast I was ever on.
No.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And he's just a great guy.
Okay. Well,
He's
good to know.
Looky there.
He's a really, really good guy. Yeah.
Awesome.
So even Chris didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't know. Congrats, Josh. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sweet.
I'm just a guy with a gun shop hosting a podcast. So
I was like, wait, this isn't rigged, is it?
We didn't rig this. Not at all.
So good job, Josh. So I think that some of the hunting stories, I feel like you guys obviously started a lot earlier than I did. I didn't hunt a lot with my dad when I was younger because he worked all the time and I worked with him, right? But I feel like I learned a lot very quickly.
Oh, you definitely do.
Yeah.
And I maybe because I was a little bit older when I started hunting, I had a little more common sense.
Your brain was a little more developed.
Yeah, and I could realize like when you would piss people off or what you maybe should do or shouldn't
do.
Yeah, like
Definitely.
Like when you're in Costco and the person keeps ramming you in the back of the leg. With the shopping cart. I don't know if Google the Costco video when the guy picks up the shopping cart, smashes the lady in the face. She totally deserved it, by the way. Don't feel bad at all.
Well,
knock it off. Don't be a bad person.
we don't condone violence like that, but I mean,
Yeah, don't hit her with a shopping cart. I'm not saying like go that far, but I understand where he's coming from. He's a very passionate man.
Okay, I get you.
Yeah,
I can hear you.
So but I think that ties in well to what we want to talk about because like you go out in the woods, maybe you don't know, maybe you think it's totally normal, especially in Washington State, if we do continue hunting because the powers that be are trying to shut the hunting down in the state, but there's a lot of competition. Especially in modern rifles. So we unfortunately in Washington State, if you guys don't know, you have to pick your weapon, right? So you have to pick modern rifle, you pick muzzleloader or archery equipment. So
for deer and elk.
Yeah.
For deer and elk. Yeah.
For deer and elk. So those are our big game, and you get to go and hunt in the woods. And if you pick modern rifle, which is the easiest to get into, right? Because you can just go buy a rifle and it's a lot easier. You don't have to train as much with a bow. In my personal opinion, like I've hunted all three, and I feel like modern is probably the easiest to get into.
Probably. Yeah,
Right.
It's.
I would say so, yeah.
I would think so.
I mean, as long as you have someone that puts your scope on and knows what they're doing, then then it's the easiest thing in the world, you know.
I'm that guy.
That's how I started. That's how Doug started.
That's how I started.
Pretty much most of our family got into starting out doing modern hunting. I mean, some guys start out archery, and that's great, but I mean, that's how
Most guys don't,
That's
though.
I
Most
feel like
guys
that's something
don't.
that usually comes later on, unless
Yeah.
you're just dedicated to shooting a bow before you get into it, you know. But yeah, we'll.
I feel like, I feel like I have the most recent recollect because I got started the oldest, I think, out of all of us, right? I was 20 when I shot my first deer, and I remember going out and I thought, holy shit, look at all these guys out here, like. Because in Washington State, you have to wear hunter orange. It's very visible. It's super easy to see.
The Orange Army.
The pumpkin patch, yeah.
Yep.
So you go out. The very first time I hunted, I was in Winthrop, Washington, which is an incredible town, by the way. There was thousands of hunters, thousands. I mean, literally thousands. When the sun comes up, like it's orange everywhere. So
Yeah, you're gonna run into people no matter
100%.
what.
and there is always conflict. Like I remember, like guys just getting super pissed because guys. So some of it is my fault. Some of it is not knowing. Some of it is like it is what it is, right? Because you're never going to be perfect. But you would hike in to your spot, and if someone hiked in before you and you hike through their spot, or maybe you don't see them, or maybe whatever happens, like guys would get pissed and they would yell, and you know, everyone has firearms, and some people, I mean, people get shot, right? Like over stupid stuff, which is totally,
That's crazy.
it's totally crazy, right?
That's crazy.
But I think that you should, and this is talking specifically to the firearm hunters, modern firearm hunters, that you should be very mindful of other people's bubble, right? And we're not talking a 6-foot bubble. We're talking like a 400-yard bubble, right? So when you're hiking out, there is absolutely no reason to be within 400 yards of another hunter.
And this is tying into the hunting etiquette.
So
That's a perfect example.
That's what I'm talking about. It's like when you go out, if you're within 400 yards of another hunter, you're being an asshole, in my personal opinion.
Yeah,
I feel
especially if you know that person's there.
if you
you're
see
aware.
them and they're set and you're hiking in, if you had one too many barley pops the night before and you didn't get up early enough, and this
I'm
person
most likely going to go back to camp and have some breakfast.
like
or have a plan B.
Or have a plan B and just go somewhere else.
don't ruin someone else's hunt,
Yeah.
basically. And if the thing is, I mean, we're in the gun shop, so this is a perfect example. Like, I build guns that shoot 2 miles or farther accurately. Like, we're talking on target. Like, I'm not saying you go shoot animals at 2 miles, but like, I mean, we have a 375 Chi-Tech in there that's like, that's what it's built for, right?
Right.
So the average, so like if you guys could see behind us right now, we have a bunch of rifles that are in for service or different guns that we're building. We have a couple 300 PRCs, and like, that's a 1,000-yard gun all day, like super, super easy. So when I set up, I'm set up for much, much farther than what I can shoot, because I'm in a glass and you know, I want to see a long ways. But if you're within that minimum 1,000-yard range, I would be pissed, right? And maybe a person comes in at 200 yards and thinks like, oh, I'm only going to shoot a deer at 50 yards. I'm okay.
Well, and a lot of people don't even think about that stuff.
And another thing is like, let's be real. If you can't see hunter orange, you probably shouldn't be out there in the woods anyway. Because I mean, realistically, like, if
I can pick them out.
I can pick off
forever away.
Yeah, with a naked eye.
Mm-hmm. Like, oh, there's two guys over there.
My thing is always, if I run into, if I see somebody, even I'm going somewhere else where I can't.
Other
see
direction, because for one thing, it's not going to do you any good.
No.
If you're the guy like, oh, I'm going to go hunt where someone else is already hunting, because you haven't heard a shot there, and most likely those guys are already set up in a better position anyway.
And you don't know if they blew all the animals out already.
Right.
So,
like, I always take the option of going the opposite direction.
Yeah, same here.
Or
That's
going
what I've always done.
a plan B, like, okay, well, there's already someone here, so now I'm going to move over to this area.
Yeah.
But I've had it to the point where I've been going in places and been like sneaking down like an old, say it's an old abandoned logging road or an old deer trail or something, and had guys wanting to do the same thing coming in behind me and then trying to power past me, like come cruising up and like try to pass me like, hey, dude, what the hell are you doing? And just like, oh, I'm going this way. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Like,
if you're listening right now, don't do that.
Please don't do that.
That's a fist fight on site.
Yeah.
All right? Like, I'm not saying I'm going to like fight you in the woods, but there's some people
we're not
who
going to be very happy.
Some like
You might run into that guy.
you're pissing someone
So
off.
you're saying my hunt is more important than your hunt, and I'm going to get past you so that I get the opportunity that you're going for right now, is what you're saying by your actions.
Yeah, and don't do that.
And
Please don't do that.
In this instance, when this happened to me, it was a guy from, believe it or not, California, and his son, and he was like, probably mid-50s. His kid was like maybe 20. And he came like flying up behind me, and I was in elk. Like they were bugling like 150, 200 yards from me, and they're trying to press past me, and they're just talking like normal, like me and you right now. Oh, I can hear the elk. They're over there, son. And I'm just like, what in the hell is wrong with these people? And he comes up to me, hey, yeah, we're just going to go down here. I'm like, no, dude, I am like making a move on these elk right now. I'm like, I could have been a dick and been like, no, get out of here, but I was like, hey, I have an idea. Since you're here, I'm here, we're both elk hunting. How about you do this and kind of go down and kind of skirt this side? I'm going to skirt this side. And if I get a shot, they're going to go this way. Or if vice versa, if you bump them, they're going to come my way. And then that way we both have an opportunity.
Yeah.
Instead
so
of
not messing up each other's hunts. Totally.
So I did that out of the kindness of my heart.
I think that's a great piece of advice. So like
That's a super good piece of advice.
Instead of getting pissed, like find an alternative to where like, hey, I'm gonna hunt this way, you hunt that way. It's gonna be beneficial for both of us.
Right.
Right? Because obviously you know what you're doing. They have no idea.
No idea. I knew I was going to probably bump them into them if I got a shot off.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was being sincere in that way. And then the guy's like, oh, okay. So finally, after butting a little bit of heads, like I was like, I'm not going to let you just go blow by me and ruin my hunt for me. He was like, okay. And he goes to do that. Right. And then like 2 minutes go by and I see that son of a bitch and he's skirting below me, trying to get past me where I couldn't see him, and he blows out the whole herd and just elk everywhere. Just freaking the herd's just dispersed. There's probably like 200 elk. It actually ended up working out for me because all these elk came running up out of there after they got all busted up, and I just got on a small group. But like he was like, yeah, let's do that, and then tried to pull a fast one. So don't do that. Don't be that guy.
Don't be a butthole.
Yeah.
Please.
And there's so many instances where I can say like something like that happened. And this is here to educate people. It's competitive out there.
Oh, it's super competitive. Everyone wants to win, right?
Yeah.
We don't go out there to take second
Everyone
place.
wants to go home with something.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Just don't drop your ethics in the midst of it to get something on the ground, Like there's got to be boundaries, and that's what kind of keeps us accountable as sportsmen is having these boundaries and then living by them. And if everyone lives by them, there's not as many confrontations, and everyone's in a better mood, and you're not going to have all these horror stories like we're going to tell tonight.
fist fights,
Exactly.
Fist fights,
gun fights, and knife
Right.
fights, and
Seems like there's always that one guy in camp that just rubs you the wrong way, though.
holy hell!
Oh, yeah,
So
we can-
let's talk about some camp stories. Can I start?
Yes,
Yes,
you
sir.
started about
Go
the
ahead.
camp
You
story.
Go ahead, Chris.
I'm sure me and
So-
Doug have a few too.
Oh, I have a couple. I'm gonna start.
I don't know if I can tell him, though.
I'm gonna,
100%.
so
Tell all. Just don't
Tell
tell
all.
any direct names. Just
All right. Okay.
I've been in a few different camps, right? Because like you start getting a reputation for like, oh yeah, he's a decent guy and he's a decent hunter, And I like to think I'm a decent guy.
Are
and
we
a decent
referring
hunter.
to you or
I'm
someone?
talking about myself. Yeah, I'm gonna grade myself like a CC plus, right?
Oh, man.
Decent guy, decent hunter.
Yeah.
And so I get invited to a couple different hunts, and I remember these different camps. The camps are like They're clubs. They're 100% clubs.
Yeah.
They're
100%.
members only. You got a jacket.
Invite only.
White snake.
Yep.
I'm talking like you know.
This isn't, hey, I have this random guy from work. He can come. Hey, everybody, this is my random guy that you didn't approve showing
Yeah.
up to camp.
Yeah.
That's not how it works.
Like if you ever get invited to one of my hunting camps, like you are the golden son. Like you must be an awesome human being, you know, like just because like I mean I take my hunting very seriously, number one. Number two, like I think I'm a pretty decent judge of character, and I'm like, okay, I think maybe this guy could add something, or he's a good dude, or whatever, right? So I remember I get invited to this camp, and we go out, and it's so in Washington State, archery, you can hunt, depending on where you're at, you can hunt deer and elk at the same time, right? So I go out and I shoot. I just pinwheeled a sweet buck at like 67 yards uphill, like through. It was like one of my best archery shots ever. Anyways, kill this deer, go back to camp, hang this deer, go out, shoot an elk same day. And I'm just
No
like,
kidding.
oh yeah,
Wow.
it was
Nice.
awesome. It was killer. And these guys are like, oh man, you know, and I'm jacked, you know, and I'm just like, yeah, dude, this is like incredible.
Yeah, you're on cloud nine.
Oh,
right
cloud
now.
nine,
Yeah.
right? And I remember the next day, and we go out, and a bunch of guys we're hunting. It's kind of hot, and I don't know, maybe like you don't drink enough water, you have a couple cocktails, you get a little cranky, right? And I remember this one guy, all he did was bitch the whole time,
Oh, yeah.
cried and bitched, and like the guy that I was hunting with, and he wasn't a big guy at all, right? Which doesn't mean anything, but at the same time, the other guy was like literally twice his size. I mean, I'm talking like 150 to 300. Like that was the difference, right?
Yeah.
And the guy that just cried and bitched and it was just like was the biggest freaking crybaby. Anyways, long story short, he caught an open hand slap to the face in the middle of the night after a couple of beers. Not by me, by the little guy. And the guy cried, and he left hunting camp. He cried.
Oh,
and he
man.
left hunting camp that night. So the moral of the story is,
We didn't do any of that.
yeah,
We didn't take it that far.
There was a couple times that it came close.
It got very close.
Not by me, but
it was a new camp.
Someone else.
I was like, oh boy, okay, like
Yeah.
slap
I
people in the
think
face
I know
in this
which
camp.
story you're talking about there, Jim.
It's just try and be a better person, right? Even
Right.
if you're not a good
You
person.
don't even
like-
have to. Just don't bitch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't bitch.
That's like my number
That's
one
Doug's
rule.
rule. Don't bitch.
Yeah.
We just had this conversation.
Yeah,
like,
we
don't
did.
bitch. Like, just be like,
Yeah.
try and be positive.
It's gonna suck. Like there's
I had
no
an-
doubt about it. You see all the good things in hunting all the time on in the videos everywhere.
Oh,
but
on the YouTubes and
hunting
Instagram and
sucks.
oh yeah,
I mean, it's so hard.
it's hard to.
You put so much
Yeah.
effort in for what you get, and then
Yeah.
as soon as it's over, it's over.
Yeah.
you
and
know?
I had an incredible day, right?
Yeah, you had
and
an
I think
incredible
that
day.
maybe the guy, maybe he was. I don't even know the guy, and I've never heard of him
And
since.
it seems like that always happens too.
It's always the
like,
random guy, and
And
it's
maybe
a
he-
one and done guy.
Yeah, maybe he
Yeah.
thought like,
Yeah.
oh, this guy shot both his animals in one day, and that's how it's supposed to happen. And it's
Right.
like, dude, I've been hunting a couple days now, and like that's never happened since.
Yeah.
Ever. I mean,
Yeah.
with archery tackle, like, I mean, it's like
Yeah.
That never happened.
No.
Exactly.
elk and a deer in the same day. Like, come on, get out of here.
Yeah.
I can only think of one other instance where that was like that, but it
Right.
actually wasn't in the same day. I take that back.
Yeah.
It was the next day.
Dude, I'm talking like 6 hours apart, dude.
That's pretty
My
incredible.
uncle shot a huge 4x4 up in Mazama, and then the next day woke up and walked up the hill and shot a massive bear.
Yeah, like a 6.5, 7 foot bear.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just like, and this is before, well, I mean, I don't know if they really were ever that hardcore. Your dad was probably the most hardcore out of all of them.
Yeah.
And it was just like, hey, oh, I shot this huge buck. And then like the next day, he's like, I don't want to get it. Your dad tells the story
want
the
to
best.
get up, you know.
Yeah.
So my dad went out, and then he came back, and he hadn't gotten up, and then he got him, out of camp, and he went right up the hill and shot a huge bear,
Yep.
just like that. And
In the middle of general rifle season.
Yeah.
Like,
And my
he's
dad
like,
hunted his
"Get
ass
out
off
there."
the whole time and didn't see nothing.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
We'll have to have your dad tell that story. That's a good story.
That's a story.
That's
for
one of
him
my
to tell.
favorite stories.
I'm going to put this out there. That way we have to stick to it. I've put this to Doug and the James that we are going to have a dad series.
Yeah.
We're gonna have one call in, and I think we'll have 2 lives, and it's gonna be. Holy shit, you guys are going to be impressed.
Just wait.
Like, it's going to be a 4-hour podcast with my dad, guaranteed. Because I have a little bit of diarrhea of the mouth sometimes, especially when I get a couple barley pops in me. And my dad, I get it from somebody, right? It's not my mom. He's a hoot.
It'll be,
Good dude.
It'll be fun.
Yep. And your dad's got the stories too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my dad's got all kinds of weird stories too.
So I got another hunt camp story, but I'm going to let it ride. And we're going to go around.
We'll let Jim go.
Yeah, I'm
okay, so this is a lesson and a story in itself. So this one is, oh man, it's going to definitely get your guys' blood boiling too. I'm going to throw it out there in the universe.
Here we go.
This is probably, I would say it's got to be the number one no in the hunting ethics as far as like hunter to hunter ethics go.
Hunting ethics and hunting etiquette.
Yes. So this was a rifle hunt, elk season, Western Washington.
Oh.
Pre-Hoofrot era. This was down in the Winston unit. And we had been hunting our asses off all week long. I think we were like 4 or 5 days into the hunt. We hadn't even seen a legal bull. We came close a couple times. We bumped elk here and there. Had guys shoot bulls in front of us, like in the deep dark timber, you know.
Oh, yeah.
You hear a shot and then you hear, wahoo! And you're like, son of a... It's like 5 minutes late. So we had pretty much exhausted every single avenue where we thought we could kill an elk. And we had one last idea, and we're like, hey, like these elk have got to be somewhere. There was a big herd in here, and they're nowhere. They've disappeared. And so we thought, you know what? There's only one place, and this has happened to me multiple times. Only one place that we haven't checked, that no one has gone into, that I know of, and probably no one's thought to go into. And that's literally right behind all the camps in this little tiny pocket of state land. And it was all vine maple and nasty shit that the elk like to go into in the middle of modern season, where you think they're gone and they disappear. They're hiding right behind your camp half the time. We bumped them so many times that way. And so we go back there, and it was me, Vernon, and Hartsock was with me. And he had just gone through a huge surgery because he almost ripped his arm off with a chain, and it cut through his wrist and cut all of his tendons. So he had to have it all re-put back together, and he didn't know if he was going to have an operation of his hand. So it was all kind of a mess, and it was post-surgery, still healing up.
Jeez.
He couldn't carry a gun or anything.
Right.
But he didn't have anything going on because he wasn't working. So I talked him into going down hunting with us at this elk camp.
Climb through this super
He's
dangerous shit.
He's looking at his arm going like, what the hell am I doing here? Thanks, Jim.
Oh, and he's going to love this story. So we get in there, and me and Hartsock are in an area together. Vern's in an area, and we're doing the classic grid through the shit. Mm-hmm. And we're trying to push through this stuff and bump some elk and see if we can get something moving to someone else. And believe it was Vern, of course. He's crawling hands and knees through vine maple, and I hear some chitter chatter on the radio. I was like, I don't know what's going on. And half the time the radios don't work the way they're supposed to.
Yeah. Right.
And so I couldn't hear anything. Next thing I know, I hear the woods just erupt, loud, it sounds like a stampede. And I look at Hartsock and I go, there's a herd of elk coming at us right now. And he's like, are you sure that sounds like trees falling? I'm like, no, there's a herd of elk coming.
Right.
And they're making all kinds of noise. They're running through the vine maple and all the ferns and shit. And it's just this line of elk starts popping out in front of us. They're 100 yards. It's just and it's one of those they're all in a line, and they're making a move to get to some other nasty shit, and they're just going one. And I had this one little gap. It was 6 feet wide, and I'm like, cow, because it's 3-point minimum.
Right. Yeah.
Cow, and then I'm like, oh, that's a bull. I think that's a spike. I'm okay.
Right.
And then finally, it's literally the second to last elk in the entire group, and it's a bull. And I could see it was pretty branched off, and I was like, it's got to be 3.
Right.
And so, I shoot. It hunches up, and it does the whole and starts going down, and I see it go over the edge of the hill, but it was kind of collapsing it as it went over. Right. And I was like, oh, I got him. And Hartsock's like, are you sure that was a bull? I'm like, I'm pretty dang sure. It was a nice, decent. Right. It had some stuff going on up there, and it looked like it had some branches off. And he's like, okay. So we wait for a minute, and we start gathering our stuff, and I'm like, let's give him like 20 minutes. So then we do that, and we go over there, and Hardsock doesn't have a gun, and I go up to where I thought the bull was, and the bull is not there, and I'm like, damn it, and I'm like, and it's the ferns are like up to my chest, and I'm like, dude, finding blood in that is like so dang hard.
Classic Western
Yeah.
Washington, yeah.
So all of a sudden, I hear Hardsock yelling, and he's like 20 yards away from me on my left. He's like, Jim, the bull's running off. He just jumped up. He jumped him at like 5 yards, and the bull just was laying there dying.
Right.
And he jumped it up, and it's going away from him forever. And he's in my line of sight.
Oh, crap.
And I can't shoot it. And I'm just like, son of a bitch. But I'm like, it's not going anywhere. Like, it's
Right.
fairly open timber. It's got like ferns and stuff, and there's vine maple, but I don't think he's going to like just disappear.
Right.
And so I just kept eyes on it. I almost had a couple shots, and I just was like, I'm just going to wait. And he looked like he was going to go down. And then finally I seen him kind of go down in this ravine, and it was all open around on the sides, and I didn't see him come up. And then all of a sudden I see this guy, and I think it's Vern, because as far as I knew, we were the only ones in there.
Right.
And he's got the same hat on. It's like a cowboy hat looking hat. And I'm like, oh, there's Vern. And I see him raise up his gun and aim down in that little ravine where that thing disappeared and shoot. And I'm like, oh, thank God it's down, like
Right.
it's over. So I'm all excited. And I work my way over there. And as I get closer, I start seeing, that doesn't look like Vern. And I'm like, in fact, that is not Vern. This guy doesn't even have a hunter orange on. And I'm like, so I get closer and closer, and I find the bull is just like laying down here. The guy's on the one side of the ravine's like 10 yards wide. And the guy's on one side, I'm on the other side, and he's in his long underwear, like the red one-piece long underwear with the butt flap, dude.
Classic.
Yes. And he's got his boots on, untied, and he literally heard that shot and was in camp, which was like, I don't know, 400 or 500 yards away, and just ran out of camp thinking, I'm going to run back to that shot and see if someone got something or, go see if there's some elk.
Yeah.
And he just happened to literally stumble into that elk laying there thrashing in the it was in a creek bed is what it was. It was laying in the creek bed thrashing around. And then he just got up and shot it in the head at like 5 yards. Mm-hmm. And then I get up there, Hardsock's coming in behind me, and I'm like, dude, that's my elk. I shot it. We just jumped it up and bumped. He's like, I don't see your tag on it. And he starts doing one of these, and then he had a 44 on his hip because he had just like threw a buckle on or something, and he starts going like this. And he's got a group of guys coming in behind him because he was already on the radio immediately.
Yeah.
And so there's like these, and they're all grungy, like crackhead kind of looking guys. And I'm like this, and I'm like, well, what are we gonna do? And he's like, I don't know, but that elk's my elk. And I'm like, looking at it, and then Hardsock catches up, and he's just like, he's in cast, and old Hardsock before he had that injury would have been like, it's time to throw down. I'm gonna throw this guy in the ditch and ground and pound him. But he was like all jacked up still from his arm, and I'm just like, like someone's gonna get shot, or someone's gonna something bad's gonna happen here. And so we just made this decision. I was like, all right, well, I guess we're just gonna leave. So we took off and we got back to camp. And when we got back to camp, Vern was so pissed. He's like, I was crawling through that shit and all these elk just blew out. I'm like, yeah, I shot one. He's like, what? Where is it? And I'm like, these guys stole it up here. Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, we got two decisions. Either we pick up this camp and get the hell out of here, or we go up there and we just brawl with them and take your elk back. And I'm like, and I was just like, all right, well, guess we're leaving because ain't nobody going to get shot over an elk. Not in our camp.
No.
But that is the absolute worst thing to me that you could do as a hunter to another hunter is take their animal.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I understand if you come across an animal that they couldn't find and you don't know whose it is and you wait around, say you waited around for a couple hours and you already gutted it or whatever.
Yeah.
That's one thing, I mean, don't let the meat go to waste.
But when it's modern, it's bang, bang, bang. Like
if there's an elk laying there thrashing and you run over and shoot it in the head, and then some 21-year-old kid comes running over and is like, that's my elk, do the right thing, right?
Yeah.
I would never do that to someone else, ever.
Never, ever.
No.
In fact, I've had animals that I've shot that was not a great shot and had it run into someone else and they shot it and I knew it wasn't a great shot, and I'm cool with it. Like,
Yeah.
if it was like, say you hit it in the back leg, or like
Right.
if you hit it in the elbow or something, if it was an elk and it ran off and got shot by someone else, well, that sucks. You didn't make a great
That's
shot.
just part of it.
That's part of it.
the game.
But if it's laying there
Unfortunately,
dead
but-
and it's a fatal shot and you walk up on it just before they get there,
Right.
if they're trying to work their way there, that's a no-no.
Yeah, that's a no-no.
That's a big time no-no.
Big time no-no.
And most people should know that.
Doug, you got any of those stories? Because I got a freaking pile.
I know you got a lot of stories. How about I tell a story of what you should do?
Oh,
in
Doug.
camp?
All right. I like that.
Look at Doug turning the cheek.
I like it.
So, this was a story about deer camp.
About a man named
About a
Doug.
man. So it was opening morning, and I had the opportunity to shoot a buck, and it was like first thing, opening day. And luckily, a bunch of people were out there with us, and someone was down below me. And when he heard the shot, he actually came up the hill to help me. And it was some really steep shit.
So you did shoot.
I did shoot, yes.
Okay, yeah.
I shot a deer, and I watched it go down, and I was, happy, all jacked. And I got
Right.
down to my buck, and I see him coming up the hill, and I'm like, holy shit, I didn't even call anybody.
Right.
It was just the fact that he was down below me. He knew I was up above him, so he came, to help. And
Right.
that's what you should do.
Yep. That is what you should do. If you know someone else got an animal down,
Yeah.
and you have the ability.
So, long story short, he helped me drag it out of there. He might have puked a couple times, but that's okay. It was super, super steep, and we drug it uphill to the road because that was the closest. We got it back to camp, and it was really warm, and everyone else, showed up because it was a quick morning hunt. We were there all week. So everyone was, wanted to get back for breakfast, First deer in camp, everyone's all jacked and excited. We get the deer up on the game pole, and then next thing you know, I'm skinning it, and here comes James. He's over there, shooting the shit, all happy, and then Hartsock's there, and he comes and he shoves a bowl of biscuits and gravy in my hand, and I'm like all covered in blood, and I was like, wow, this is some serious service. I sit down, I'm eating my breakfast, James is over there, skinning my deer for me. I mean, that's just how it should be. Everyone's there to help. It's like I always do the same thing, and that's something that I want to say, that if you're in a camp with a bunch of guys and someone gets something, you should always help.
Always.
Always.
Even when you're tired and you don't feel like it.
Yeah, you don't want to. You might be upset and jealous that, someone shot something, but don't be that guy.
Yeah. Chris stayed up 2 nights. Was it 2 nights in a row? Helping me break down bears and skin bears.
Yeah.
After I doubled up this year, I was
Right.
exhausted. And I was, after the second night, I was like, all right, I'm not going to blame him if he doesn't help me. And he came out and he helped me anyway. And
Boy, it was a. I'm not gonna lie, that last one was a rough go because we had to drag it out through this canyon. Luckily, what was that guy's name?
dude, I was thinking about that today. I couldn't remember his name. I will remember it.
So
We owe him some summer sausage.
Long story short, we're going up this. It's a pretty decent hike in, and where we go in, it's like a big huge V. So you go, think of a sideways V. So we're driving up this road, and we're gonna hike way up above. But where we're gonna hunt is there's a house down below, and James is like, hey, you know what we should do? We should stop and just talk with this guy, and just say, hey, we're gonna be hunting above your house, even though it's like a mile above your house. Maybe if we get a critter, could we drag? Because there's one big, thick, deep canyon. Can we drag it down?
Down to his property.
Yeah. So
basically.
he goes and ask permission, which you should do, and the guy ends up being just an absolute gem of a human being.
Yeah.
Him and his wife are just super sweet people, and he's like, yeah, absolutely. If you get a bear, I'd love a bear liver. And we're like, sounds good, bro.
yeah.
And we're like, all right, man. So we get up there. James waxed this bear. It was incredible. And we have to drag this freaking... And I mean, I'm talking like boulders and thick brush, and we drag this thing down.
Steep.
Super steep. and James literally goes and knocks on this guy's door, and his wife answers it. And it's dark. It's dark by this time. And I'm a little worried because I'm like, we're like in East Jesus. There's no one around. knocks on the door, and this lady answers the door, and James just reaches his hand out with a bloody Ziploc bag with a bear liver. He's like, "This is for your husband." He said we could drag it through your property. And she's just like, "Oh, okay." And the bear was kind of up the road a little bit, and he's like, "Hey, is your husband available?" And he gets up and he's like, "Hey," and he's all jazzed up, and he's the nicest guy, and he's like, "Do you want to?" James like, "Hey, do you mind if you give us a ride back up to our truck?" Because it was,
Yeah, the truck's a ways
away, right?
Yeah.
And he totally gave us a ride up, and he came down and looked at the bear, and he was super jacked, and it was just like such a good feeling and a great story, and like the guy was super happy, and he got something out of it, we got something out of it,
Right.
And
we still owe that guy some summer sausage.
100%. Yeah, we'll go back over this.
We'll be seeing him again.
Yeah, yeah.
So these are some things that you should do and definitely shouldn't do in camp,
Right.
especially if you're hunting with people or if you're not.
Well, and like, I think that not just like being kind and doing the right thing, but like pulling your weight is a big part of it.
Yeah.
Pulling your weight in
For
camp
sure.
is a big part of it, because a lot of guys they look at it like a vacation, right? And we all do.
Yeah.
It's kind of a vacation, but you're kind of there to do work, right?
You're taking time off of work, and you're going, and it's hard,
Yeah.
For sure, it's
There's
hard.
a fair
You don't
amount of
wanna-
choring
you
that
don't
needs to
wanna
be
do
done in
nothing,
camp.
but
You got to clean. You got to get, if it's later in the season, you got to gather wood. You got to
Right.
like, there's all these things. Like, no one wants to be the first one up in the morning to stock the wood stove.
No.
When it's 15 degrees out, you got
Yeah.
that cozy sleep bag. You don't want to get out of bed and wake up. Be the guy who gets up in the middle of the night and restokes the wood stove.
I remember. I got a bunch of don't stories, but I'm
be
gonna
the
go
guy that wants to cook.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the do story. So the very first deer camp I got invited to, and the first time I shot a deer, I remember I go in, and it was 23 years ago. It's still like it was yesterday. It was super, super good. So anyways, long story short, I go out, I shoot this deer. It's fantastic. And I remember this guy who had this property, and he had like all these, he had like everyone's trailers on it. This guy's name's Harvey Aney. He's from Everett. He's a fantastic human being. And he goes, yeah, I bought this property, and we have this big deer camp every year, and he had this big fire and all this stuff. And I remember there was this huge pile of, Harvey's like, he's not a big man, right? At all. I mean, he's like, I don't know how big Harvey is. I'm going to insult him right now. He's never going to, he's old. Harvey's 80 something. He's not going to listen to this, but he's like, I bet he's like 5'6". I mean, he lost a bunch of weight. I bet he's like 140 pounds, 145 pounds, right? He's not a big guy. And I'm young, right? At the time I'm like 20. I mean, I'm fresh out of a body cast, but I'm still like young and spry and all bolted together. And he goes, yeah, I got this wood over here. I got to chop, and it was freaking huge. It was like this giant, huge pile of these big rounds, and I was just like, you got an axe? I could chop some wood, And he did, and I sat there and I chopped wood for hours and hours and hours. And I remember like he was so, and it was like easy for me, like I grew up chopping wood, like no big deal, even though like again, like I literally just got out of a body cast from crushing my spinal cord, but at the same time, he's not a very big guy. He's like 40 years my senior, literally, and he just thought, man, this kid's a decent kid, and it's thanks to I'm not that good of a person. It's just thanks to my dad, right? Because he worked the shit out of me when I was a kid. And so I was just like, when you show up, you got to help people out, right? I mean, if someone's 40 years your senior, you've chopped their fucking wood,
Right.
like, come on, don't be a dick, So I was like, so I chopped wood, and he's like, man, really appreciate you chopping that wood. And I said, oh, yeah. So, well, thanks for letting me stay on your property that you bought. And I, I didn't have a pot to piss in. Like, I drove around old Ford Ranger,
Yeah.
And he's just like, I'm standing on this, and it was awesome. It was great. And the camp was great. And, but anyways, that started the relationship. And I still send, to this very day, Harvey a Christmas card, and I talk to him all the time on the phone.
Nice.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Super great guy.
That's the kind of good relationships that you should have with people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then to piggyback on that, the person not to be is I'm getting ready to go play football over at Central Washington University. Go Seawoo Wildcats. And my dad's like, hey, before you go, let's go on a muzzleloader hunt super early, September. I'm like, yeah, let's go do that, Dad. So we go over to Eastern Washington. Long story short, me and my dad shoot this elk, right? He shoots, boom. And I love my father. He's a solid, standout human being. He pulls the legs off of everything. I mean, I think he flinches when he shoots because he's always on target, but he always blows the leg off, right? So long story short, this elk, and it's spike only, right? Which is like a unicorn in this
He's
state.
going after the 3-legged animal.
Yeah, so he boom shoots, and we're shooting 54 cal like homemade Hawk and muzzle loaders, right? And he's down to my left, and there's a big draw in front of us. And long story short, I see this elk come up, and his legs windmilling. I'm like, oh no! So I send one, boom, and I shoot this like whatever it is, 500 grain, 54 cal bullet. You can see it spinning in the air, right? And I 10-ring this elk. I mean,
Nice.
and it literally is. If you've never shot anything with a muzzleloader, and especially like an old style, like 54 cal, and I'm talking like it's just a slug, right? And it hits this thing, and it's a dead, right?
Dude, it's a lot of weight.
Oh, dude, huge bullet.
Yeah.
I mean, the bullet's like 1.5 inches long, so it's like shooting a thumb out of the end of your barrel.
Like a shotgun slug almost.
So it hits this elk, lays the elk over. Like I said, 10 rings this thing, and I'm like, yeah, Dad. And my dad comes back again. It's a draw in front of us. So it goes down and back up, right? And we're in. It's kind of like sagebrushy, but there's timber to our right. And same thing, like James was talking about. Here comes this guy again. In muzzleloader season in Washington State, you don't need to wear hunter orange. This guy comes out in like hunter orange head to toe, sprinting out of the woods, and he runs over, and I'm like, "What's this guy doing?" Like I 10-ring this elk. I mean, like this elk is dead, and he runs up to it, and I'm not shitting you, even a little bit, and we're shooting muzzle loaders, by the way, and he walks up to it and puts a muzzle loader to its head. Like it's dead on the ground, touches the muzzleloader to its head, pulls the trigger, burns every hair off of this thing's face because they're fire breathers, right?
Oh yeah.
And I'm watching this, and we're like 200 yards away, and I'm like, what the is this guy doing? Right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm looking at my dad. My dad's looking at me, and again, I'm 18, right? I'm getting ready to go play college football. Mm-hmm. And we get down there, and we go across, and we get up, and I'm just like, and I'm flabbergasted. I don't know what's going on. I'm like, why would this guy do this? And we get there, and he has his tag out, and the guy's getting ready to tag this elk.
Jeez.
And I'm looking at this guy, and he's not. And don't get me wrong, like size, it doesn't matter. There's a million UFC fighters going to kick the shit out of me. I get it, but he's not a very big guy, and you can tell he's wearing orange head to toe. There's a lot of like red flags here, right? And somehow in the conversation he said like he was from Bellevue or something, and I'm standing there, and if you don't know Washington Bellevue, that's not.
Sorry if you're from Bellevue listening.
Yeah, if you are, send me a DM and you can explain your situation, but probably not. So
Give us a good excuse.
and he's notching his tag, and I'm like, and I'm looking at him, and I'm going to play college football in pretty good shape, and I feel like I'm, like a decent sized guy, and I'm standing over this guy. My dad's way bigger than me. Like my dad's a giant man. His hands are like, he's got bratwurst coming out of the ends of his fingers. Right? It's just huge. Yeah. And he's looking at this guy, and my dad is like trembling. He is so upset, and I'm just like, I'm just too dumb. I don't know what's going on, right? Yeah. And I'm like, why would this guy? And I look at this elk, and all the hair's burned off its head. And it's in velvet still, right? So it's like burned on the velvet. And I'm just looking at this guy, and you could tell like this guy knows he did wrong.
Yeah,
he knows he is messing up. And my dad's looking at this guy, and my dad goes, and I shit you not, he goes, they're arguing back and forth. And I just remember my dad telling this guy, he's like, boy, I'm gonna have a really hard time explaining to the game warden. And the guy's like, explain to the game warden what? He's like, why you're gutted next to my elk. And I'm like, oh. And my dad's got this giant knife out, and I'm like, we had muzzle loaders, don't get me wrong, but like at the same time, I'm like, this shit got violent real quick. Right? And I'm like, oh my God, like,
wow, that is
so when it comes to elk, I mean, we could have kicked the shit out of this guy.
Yeah,
like, but the point is, like, number one, the guy's an idiot. Number two, don't ever run up on anyone else's animal.
Right.
Number three, it was dead. The guy is a freaking. I hope this guy is like
I hope he's listening right now.
I hope you're listening. I hope you have a terrible case of hemorrhoids and you've turned into a better person or something. I don't know. Don't be that guy.
No.
It's so bad. But the problem is, I think especially in elk, you get very emotionally charged. And when there's firearms involved or anything involved, like it's so stupid when you think about it. Like now that I step back, like at the time, like I wasn't, I didn't even think about any of that because I was just like, I don't know what's going. Why is this guy being a dum dum? Like, I don't get it. Now, like as I'm older, I get fired up. Like if someone ran up, I would get pissed, right? And maybe that guy, maybe it was his first hunt, maybe he didn't realize that he was being an idiot. But I feel like,
and that's why we're here.
You need to listen to the podcast, and we'll tell you, like,
don't know better.
If you see a guy that does that and you're hunting with him, don't hunt with him anymore.
Don't just
right. Yeah. There you go.
Have a conversation with that guy and be like, "Hey,
we're gonna save you guys a lot of anguish in your life."
Yeah. Just say,
don't learn from that guy.
Say, don't do this because you're gonna get everyone in trouble.
Right.
Don't be a butthole.
You don't want to get someone hurt.
Yeah.
And you especially don't want to look like that. Like, is that the look you want?
No.
You're going to go home and you're going to sit down and cut into a nice piece of backstrap after you stole an elk from someone and just enjoy that? No, dude. I couldn't do it.
No. Hard enough.
Granted, there are a lot of people in this world that don't have any morals, that don't think the same way that we do. I can't personally. I could never do that to someone else.
Yeah. Don't be a butthole.
Right.
Don't be a butthole.
So what is another example, Dougie?
Another example of not doing something.
Or it could be a good example.
Good example.
Oh, I have a good one here. And you correct me if I'm wrong. When you first get to a camp, there's always a lot of chores to be done, right? Setting up camp setup, right?
Camp setup.
Mm-hmm. Maybe you could elaborate on that.
If you show up with the camp, you definitely got to help with the camp setup. You can't just sit back and watch everybody.
Right.
And if you're going to be there for the long haul, you better help camp away too at the same time.
Yep. A lot of guys like to split right when it's time to break down camp.
Yeah.
And I know everyone...
it makes sense if you're only there for a couple days. Yeah.
Right.
I get that. But if you're there the whole time and you're leaving the same day, just stay to help pack up camp.
Yep. And do the final touches, clean up everything.
Yeah.
Make sure that you're not putting all that burden on someone else to take care of all of everyone else's stuff, which has happened to me. I've been the guy to clean up.
You got to hold your own
everybody.
weight. It's no fun to clean up other people's stuff.
Right. Talking about camp and how you get to camp, setting up camp, and taking down camp.
I got some things to say about that.
All right, you talk about it.
I feel like everyone that's listening right now has a skill set, right? I think that I remember, so that camp I was talking about, Harvey's Place, there was a guy who pulled up to camp. He owned a bar, and I remember he opened, like he had a big diesel pusher motorhome. He pulled up in a motorhome, and I'm like, I'm this is at a time where I'm making like $5 an hour, literally. This guy pulls up in like a couple $100,000 motorhome, and I remember he opens up the bottom, and the whole thing was stocked with booze, and I was like, holy shit. And he's like, and he was the most generous guy, and he's like, take whatever you want, booze, this and that. But like that's the way he contributed, right? And he wasn't the kind of guy, he wasn't going to help me pack it out. The guy was like,
he was a camp guy.
Yeah, like he wasn't like the super fit, I can hike up a mountain kind of guy, right? But he brought a ton of booze. So I feel like there's guys that like, I have some buddies, like my buddy Travis, he's literally half mountain goat. Like, I swear to God, like he could climb up a mountain, down a mountain. He's half my size. He could probably pack more weight than I can. Mm-hmm. The guy is just a machine. And I feel like if you have any sort of skill set in camp, because everyone is different, right? I feel like you should use that in camp to contribute. Like, say some guys have money, right? Mm-hmm. If that's the way you want to contribute to camp, thank you very much. I appreciate the guys that have money. Some guys don't have money, and maybe they have a strong back, right? Or maybe some guys are just great hunters in general, or you're just going to help pack, or maybe like be funny.
cook.
Or help cook. Yeah, be camp cook.
I think cooking is like one of the.
It is one of the biggest ones.
Tell a joke. Do dishes. Holy shit!
Dishes.
I hate doing dishes.
Oh yeah.
Everyone hates doing dishes.
Oh,
If you
I
don't
won't do
have anything else to bring to the table, but
Do
you can
dishes.
clean the dishes,
Yeah.
be that guy.
I'll be okay with that. If that's all you do.
I have no problem cooking for everyone. I just don't want to touch a dish.
Yeah.
I think it's a great balancing act. So like if you're gonna take somewhere, which everyone does, right?
Yeah.
I do, right? I'm probably gonna eat a bunch of food. I'm probably gonna have some of your barley pops if I don't bring my own. But I'm gonna give somewhere else, right? Unfortunately, if you shoot a bear down in a freaking hole, I'm gonna help you drag it out. And if we get back to camp at freaking midnight, I'm gonna help you skin it out, and I'm gonna help you quarter it up, and we're just gonna get it done. It's but at the same time, there's some guys that maybe if they're skinning something out and they can do it but don't want to do it, like maybe you need to help them like learn a certain skill set. Like obviously we've all been out, we've hunted a lot, we've killed a lot of critters. I think that I try and educate some of the guys on like, I've skinned literally hundreds and hundreds of critters, and if you know me, you know that I life size just about everything. So I'm the guy who will cape something out, or I'll show you how to skin it out for a life size, or I'll do something like that. But at the same time, I expect you to watch me. Like if you're not going to just like go piss off and have a cocktail, right?
Yeah.
I expect you to be there, and I'm going to teach you.
Pay attention.
Yeah, and I'm going to teach you how I'm doing it that way. Like say for instance, if I get hurt, which I do a lot, I expect you to like repay the favor, right? And I expect the same out of myself. Like, maybe you're a great cook, and I'm going to pay attention. Like James is a great freaking cook. Doug's got a really strong back, and if I ever need somebody to throw somebody out at second base, Doug's my guy.
Yeah, you guys use me as a mule. Let's put it that way.
No, Doug's so much more than a mule. You're selling yourself short, Doug. So
I'm the funny guy.
How are we doing on time? Should we switch gears here, or do you guys want to keep going a little bit?
Yeah, real quick.
I think we touched base pretty well on the what to do and what not.
I mean,
to
there's
do
definitely some more we could have done
as a hunter in the woods around other hunters. Just be respectful.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah,
we definitely could have dove more into it, but I think that was a good baseline.
Yeah, like for sure. Yeah.
We covered some of the worst and best examples.
Yeah. Don't be a beehole.
So let's switch.
Don't steal people's kills.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And don't bitch in camp.
Yeah.
So Chris, would you like to get us up to date on some of these new gun bills that are? So we're in Washington State, and
this is something that's current right now.
This is current right now, and these bills are absolutely detrimental and terrible for our Second Amendment rights, and also for if you're an FFL dealer or any gun dealer in the state of Washington. These are going to be basically nails in the coffin for 90% of FFL dealers in the Washington state.
It's really bad. It's really bad. I'm gonna try and stay on point here. This is obviously something that gets me fired up because I am an FFL. I'm an SOT. I'm a manufacturer. I check all the boxes for everything that Jay Inslee hates. I am not a fan of Jay Inslee. I think he's a terrible person. Jay, if you're watching, do better. Don't
infringe our rights.
That's the thing. Here's the problem that I have.
Just like all the other
out there. And please, everyone that's listening, don't feel that I am being biased or ungrateful for being like alive and being a human being and everything that we have in the United States. We have a thing called the Constitution. When you take those rights away from the Constitution, you're breaking the law, right? So,
right.
Like, say, for instance, like if you came in here and you wanted to say, like if Jay walked in here right now and he wanted to have a debate with me, I can't tell him no, right? If you want to, free speech, let's hear it out. So it's the second thing we wrote, free speech, guns. Mm-hmm. Second
There's
thing.
a reason why the Constitution was written in the first place.
Yeah,
right.
And here's
because we pulled away from the oppression we were under.
Exactly.
It's so I know, and that's the thing. It's like so he's trying to enact the most stringent gun laws that's ever been put in place in the history of the United States and Washington State right now. And if you don't understand why I'm getting upset, is because I'm just a regular old small business owner. We're in my gun shop right now. As you can see, I'm a bit of a patriot. I love the United States. I think it's fantastic. I've been to a lot of other countries. It's not that great. If you want to leave, peace out.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know?
Right.
Like, leave. Have fun. It's a shit show out there. Justin Trudeau, you want to go to Canada? Have fun with that. That guy's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
He's worse than Jay Inslee, literally, if that's doable. So anyways.
I don't know. We're competing now. We're
So,
really getting into it.
the problem is he knows he's doing wrong. It's like being in the woods and shooting someone's animal that's dead and trying to put your tag
I
on
like
it. He
that
knows
relation.
he's doing something wrong because as soon as this bill passes, we're talking about 1240, which is going to outlaw, and I'm doing air quotes right now if you're watching this, assault weapons, which is one of the dumbest things that they've ever coined. Myself as a Washington resident and a business owner, just like, you know, a lot of people are listening right now. You guys pay taxes, right? So you are all backing Jay Inslee, myself included, to sue the person that I've already put money into, right? The organizations I'm talking about, like the Firearms Policy Coalition, Gun Owners of America. Unfortunately, NRA's being a sack right now, and they're not doing much for us. But there's a bunch of organizations that are doing really good things, and I donate to those organizations so I can sue Washington State, which I'm paying taxes to Washington State, which is then again going to sue the people, you know, that are suing
paying
the people.
both sides.
I'm paying both sides.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. So to get into it real quick, long story short, they are going to ban all AR-10s and AR-15s across the board.
AK's involved too, yeah.
AK there's a lot of semi-automatic weapons, basically any center fire semi-automatic weapon, and they list. And by the way, whoever wrote this bill is, I know I'm not supposed to say like bad things or anything like that, but like they're not an intelligent human being. They have no idea anything about guns. You can tell when someone talks about guns, and when they say 30-round magazine clips and fully semi-automatic, things like that, oh my God.
It sounds like a high school student wrote it.
You need an open hand slap in the
Right.
face. I'm disgusted by you.
Because you don't know what you're talking about.
You don't. You literally don't know what you're talking
100%.
about.
So the thing that I find crazy right now is how under
Under the radar
everything is right now. Like, I've talked to multiple people that are like, what are you talking about? I'm like, what do you mean? You're a hunter, or you're like, you're a big time gun owner. Why do you not know about this? It's still flying under the radar, even now.
So they're going to ban all these basically semi-automatic weapons. So basically any sort of rifle that you could put a magazine in and pull the trigger, and it goes off once, and then you pull the trigger again and it goes off again. So that's like the bane of these hard left liberal, you know, mush heads that are trying to take our
Goo brains.
It doesn't make any sense.
Waterheads.
So long story short,
Oh man,
they
it's
are
getting heated.
I know.
most semi-automatic weapons. If you see this is a Ruger
22 pistol.
22.
Yeah.
So the 22. This is so highly illegal in their paperwork that it's ridiculous. So anything, if you have a handgun, right, a semi-automatic handgun, which, you know, it is. Any pistol is semi-auto, right? So it's got a detachable magazine, which everything has. It has a barrel shroud on it. This is because this is a light version. That's illegal as well. Whoever wrote that, kudos to you, Muttonhead.
Yeah.
It's the dumbest thing. It's got a threaded barrel because I like putting cans on stuff because it's quieter. I don't like irritating the shit out of my neighbors. I live in the country. I got 10 acres, but at the same time, like, people can hear it down the road. And
Right.
if you don't know how silencers work, it's not like the movies. And if you feel like silencers need to be banned, which they talked about silencers being in here, they are not going to ban those.
Yeah. I
It
don't
just-
know why people don't understand what silencers really are, is what I think.
It's a sound suppression device. Like, basically, it makes it slightly hearing safe.
It's not like on GoldenEye on Nintendo 64. It's
Where
like,
it's like you literally can't hear it. Yeah.
it doesn't sound like a laser.
Yeah.
No.
So I'm gonna roll through the bill real quick. So the House Bill 1240. So they're trying to ban most center fire semi-automatic weapons, which is across the board. There's millions and millions and millions and millions of them. they're trying to ban any pistol with a threaded barrel. They're trying to ban any semi-automatic shotgun with a threaded barrel or with any sort of like a pistol grip or a thumb hole stock or anything like that.
So home defense, semi-automatic with a pistol grip ban.
And
Yeah,
here's
which is what a lot of people have.
Yeah.
but here's
It's so common.
here's
Extremely common.
a giant point to this bill because they want to push these bills. And if you're listening right now and if you're offended, just listen for a minute. I own a gun shop. I'm going to follow the rules because I have a family and a daughter, and I'm a law-abiding citizen. And I don't want to go to jail. And same with these guys sitting next to me. I feel like I'm not saying we're pillars of the community, but we try and be good people, right?
Yeah.
The only people that this bill affects, and all the bills they're trying to push through, are law-abiding, good human being type people, right? Mm-hmm. Do you really think the guy who's going to go rob a liquor store or shoot up a school gives a shit about your laws?
No.
Right.
100%.
100% no. Mm-hmm. And if you think that your law is going to stop one terrible human being from getting a hold of a gun, you're out of your mind.
Right.
They're everywhere. There's millions and millions and millions of ARs in the United States. You think you're going to stop one piece of shit from buying an AR from another piece of shit? You can't do it.
No.
You can't do it. It's not going to happen. So the laws.
They're not cracking down on these people.
No, it doesn't make
letting
sense.
them out.
You go to, people who have been to Washington State were hour and a half north of Seattle. You go there and it's just full of drug addicts, and they give everyone these drugs, and they do terrible things. Let them do whatever they want. The cops can't do anything. So
they tie their hands.
Yeah, I personally build for law enforcement in Snohomish and Skagit County, and I talk to these incredible people. And if you don't like cops because one guy did one terrible thing, like, I get it, like, whatever. But at the same time, like, take them as a whole. There's lots of bad people. Like that guy who was a cop and killed that guy was a bad guy. Jay Inslee, a bad guy. Are all politicians bad? No. Is Jay Inslee bad? 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, there's bad people in this world that they do bad things, and because he knows he's causing damage to multiple people. Like, when I do something, I try and do the best thing I can. For instance, I build firearms for law enforcement. And they go out and they protect my family. They protect other families. They save lives every single day, right? Mm-hmm. They're catching the bad guys. They're catching the bad guys that are stealing the firearms and doing crimes with them. And people are just so. I'm trying not to say bad words, but they're so out there and they don't understand because they
there's a huge disconnect.
Oh, a huge disconnect. You sit there and watch CNN
reality,
all day and
with reality.
Social media
and what is being shoved down everyone's throats.
Oh, it's horrible.
There's such a separation of what reality it really is to these people that are pushing these things through, and it sounds good to them. It just sounds like, okay, if we don't sell them, then they will go away.
Yeah, if you're in an apartment in Seattle and you hear it like, I don't do anything except I work from home.
Right.
I don't leave my apartment, and there's nothing. And if you live in Seattle and live in an apartment, I'm not picking on you. I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of stuff that goes into this that a lot of people don't know. Mm-hmm. Like, if you really think any of these laws will do anything, I would challenge you to look at Chicago. Mm-hmm. So Lightfoot 100%. just got yarded out. Thank God.
Yeah.
But how many people? Chicago has some of the strictest gun laws in the nation. Mm-hmm. Look how many people get murdered there. It's
highest murder rate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Constantly.
I know about that.
One of the highest crime rates in general.
And they have the strictest gun laws.
States.
So if you really think all these are going to work, if you can bring me a better argument, I'll listen to you. But
I have a story about that.
Oh, Doug, please do tell.
There was actually a freight car from a train that got robbed in the middle of Chicago that was full of police-style weapons.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And then that same summer, on Memorial Day weekend, there was probably 50 people shot. And I think over 4th of July weekend, there was probably 100 people shot.
Wow.
So those of you who don't know Judge, or our good friend, the Cannon over here, if you Google that.
Boy.
Yeah. So
we'll take it back a little bit.
we'll take it back a little bit. Drafted by the
I played pro ball, semi-pro in Chicago.
He was drafted by the Kansas City Royals in high school.
He's a very
in high school.
Yeah, he's very like.
Yeah, those are the glory days.
He's very humble. He's very humble. So he could have played professional football or baseball. Excuse me. He was like one of the greatest catchers in the nation. I want to say.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, guys.
Not many guys can throw that fast of a bomb to second base and throw guys out like that.
Dude, like it's a ball caught on fire.
Right.
Yeah.
He could throw so fast. I think didn't they recruit you to be they wanted you to try pitching because you could throw so fast? Allegedly.
Sure.
Humble. Yeah. So long story short, he traveled around, and that's how he knows this because he played there.
I've been around the country, so
and
I've seen a lot of different places.
He got to see it firsthand, and I just want to say that like people who think this stuff works are fed, and I'm not calling you an idiot. I'm calling you misinformed. Mm-hmm. You don't know. You're wrong,
and that's why we're here to educate you.
Because you're wrong. You're 110% wrong, and it sucks because everyone should have the same information, and like it's just impossible these days. You cannot get the same information whether you look on Google or you listen to like some of the smartest people. Like when you grew up, like listen to these people. They're so smart.
We're sitting in the middle of what is the worst situation of the states with the gun bill.
Yeah.
But this is a problem that's happening from a federal level down. Our president is speaking with his actions, with what he's trying to do, trying to basically do the same thing but on a different level.
Grandpa Joe.
You know?
I'm so disappointed.
And what kind of a precedent does that leave for the governors? They say, "Oh, well, of course we're going to try to do this." If we had a president that was like, "Absolutely not, we're not going to infringe on people's rights," I can guarantee you that Jay Inslee would be thinking again about pushing this garbage through, or at least he would be a little bit more hesitant.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, it's a free for all right now on your 2A rights, and unfortunately,
hunting rights, 2A rights. It's just a hot mess express right now. We're under attack from every angle.
Yeah,
and honestly, it's just real bad. It's real bad, folks. Go buy an AR tomorrow.
And that
Cantrell Outdoors.
Yeah, that brings me. Obviously, I'm a gun dealer, gun manufacturer in Stanwood. But if you're listening to this in your Washington State, please go out and support your local gun shop. There is another bill where they are basically going to try and shut down every FFL in Washington. Guys like Cabela's, they'll be able to weather the storm because they have tens of millions of dollars. I do not. I don't have it. They push hard enough, and I'm going to fold. And the gun-hating, hard left liberal crazy pants are going to win. And if you're like, I know that like there's literally like there's a shop called like Democrats for Guns, and there's people who are on the left who aren't crazy, and thank you for that. And that's fine. I had a guy. I had a guy in the gun shop the other day who has killed more elk than anybody I know. Probably has 10 times more guns than I do. And he told me he was a Democrat, and I about fell over. I was like, "How can you be? What are you talking about? You can't be a Democrat." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm a Democrat." And he is an elderly gentleman. Back when Democrats meant something different.
Right.
You know, it doesn't mean the same. And to be completely honest, Republicans don't mean the same. And I hate it's a two-party system, and we could really get into the politics of it. But here's what I think. I think that you should respect the Constitution. I think that if you want to be an absolute idiot and scream on YouTube and do whatever you want or on social, hey, let her rip. I don't give a shit. I'm not going to listen to you.
Yeah.
But
that's your own right.
Yeah, I'm not going to get on there and I'm not going to, tell you that you're a POS because, like I have more important things to do, like be a decent human being. And at the same time, like the second thing that was written in the Constitution, I feel like you should respect that as well. And if you don't, I think that's where the problem lies.
If you don't respect that and that's not important to you, think about the people that are your brothers and sisters in the country that it is important to.
Yeah.
If you can't see past your own hand in front of your face, then think about others. it's important to us.
It's super important to me.
Super important.
I mean, this is income for my family, This pays for my daughter's cheerleading,
It's exhausting.
I love the smell of gunpowder.
I love the smell of gunpowder. We literally have a shooting. We have a shooting apparatus right behind there.
Yep.
But I feel like, long story short, if you have any sort of power, and if you are able, I think you should reach out. There's a bunch of different organizations that will help you. Like there's so for instance, I think the Sportsman's Alliance, I think Firearms Policy Coalition had a link on their deal as well. Mm-hmm. Long story short, there's these action buttons that you can just click and you can send stuff to your representatives. I don't think they listen to them. I honestly don't. I don't think they care. I think they're like our Washington State commission
for the game,
yeah.
fishing game.
Yeah. Douglas Bose posted something today about Commissioner Baker, and they don't give a shit.
No,
they don't. Look at some of the stuff they say. They don't care. They're like teenage kids with ultimate power, and they're just gonna wreck everything. Just think about that. Next time you want to vote for one of these people, give them a flamethrower and a machine gun, and they're 10 years old, and then give them a bottle of whiskey, and then think about what they're going to do, because that's what they're doing. They're burning the state down, and they're ruining it. Mm-hmm. So,
and then there's going to be nothing left.
There won't be nothing
left. We're going to
be
sitting here going, "What happened?"
Yeah.
Well, we have a lot of cool taxidermy to look at.
Yeah,
a lot of cool stories to tell.
Yeah,
but
not
as much fun as going out there and doing it.
We're not throwing in the towel yet. We're ready to dig our heels in and fight till the bitter end, until there ain't nothing left to fight for.
That's right.
I think, like I said, go out, support your local gun shop. If you have, I'm not an attorney. I do follow a guy on YouTube, Washington Gun Law, and I feel like he has a lot of good information. But there's, just try and get it from someone who knows, like an attorney or somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Don't listen to
hearsay.
Yeah.
Over the internet. There's a lot of misinformation spread all the time about all different kinds of stuff.
Don't listen to
That's why I don't, half the time people might tag us and stuff, and don't get offended if I don't share it right away. I always do my own research on stuff.
Little due diligence.
A good example of that is a lot of people are talking about Semi Bird, who's going to be running for governor.
Tell me about that, James.
Well, I'd been talked to and approached by multiple people that, have you heard of Semi Bird? He seems like he's pro hunting. He seems like he's pro Second Amendment. He's got a vast military background. He's super educated through psychology and has a PhD in behavioral. I think it's I'm not 100% sure, but it's some sort of behavioral
PhD. You had me.
Yeah. So he's got his master's, then his PhD.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he seems like a solid dude, and he honestly seems like a dude that could give Inslee a run for his money. But people kept tagging us, and I was like, well, I'm not going to endorse or talk about anything like that until I do my own research and see what this guy's really about, because there's so many times that you can just jump into it and just put it out there in the universe.
You can't take someone's word for it.
Knee-jerk reaction, right? I think that's.
But I did do my due diligence, and that's the guy. That's our guy, Semi Bird. Look him up on the internets. Seems like a good dude. In fact, you know what? Maybe we should have him on the podcast sometime.
I'll tell you what.
Come on down.
It'd be pretty hard to be any worse than Jay Inslee.
Yeah. I don't know if he's much of a drinker, so we might get him soda waters or.
Nah, that's okay.
I got diet sodas. I'm fine with that.
We can do that.
All right.
Well, before we end this podcast, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Black Rifle Coffee, Montana Knife Company, and Loophole, of course.
Big fan.
Big fan. Love all their stuff. Great people. They stand for the same things that we like to stand for. Mm-hmm. And with that being said, we'd like to end this with a little bit of saying, you got to stay humble and hunt hard.
That's right.
See you on the mountain.